there it is.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. That's not the first time I got to try that one.
Yeah.
Here we are at another episode of potentially unnamed Paddock Pass podcast, the Paddock Pass podcast. My name is Jack McLeod. I am joined here today by my cohorts. Trey, if you want to start leading off, introduce yourself. What's happening?
Yeah, Trey Albrecht.
Patrick Harvey.
Ooh,
I'm Andrew, resident iRacing expert. So
excellent. I know very, very little about iRacing.
So let's just, the first question I have in that, since we're going to talk about the eyes that race, is how many hours of iRacing do you currently have?
Oh, good question.
Is that a thing you can look
You
up?
need to look on your log.
It's not on my Steam account, so I don't have a quick way to tell. But I would easily hundreds, several hundred, a lot, too much.
I think it's more than hundreds at this point.
It very well could be. I've been iRacing for since September of 2022.
So 2 solid years of playing
Couple hours a week.
Practicing.
Yeah.
a couple hours a week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a person who works from home and shows up on Discord at, 11:30 in a race.
Yep.
So what exactly is iRacing or sim racing for people that don't know about it, Andrew?
So iRacing is it claims to be a racing simulator, and people who take it way too seriously say it is, but it's actually just a really fancy video game whose only purpose is to attempt to simulate racing vehicles at a very high and accurate level. So every single car has been scanned thoroughly by iRacing. None of it's a digital render. Well, it is, but it's not like they didn't make it up. They talked to the people who made the car and put it into the game as digitally accurate as possible. Same with the tracks. They're all laser scanned. Like if the bump is in their real life, it's there in the game too.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
And at least from what I know, that goes down to, not just liveries and vehicle dimensions, the tire behavior, weather behavior, to a certain extent, simulated,
as close as they can. Yeah.
Yeah, didn't weather just get added recently?
Yeah, within the last year. Rain was new. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So they scan the tracks, they scan the cars, they try to make it all pretty realistic or like as close to a simulation as you can, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely gained a lot of popularity. Why has it been suddenly? Because iRacing has been around for a long time, right? Like 2000 and early mid 2000s.
Yeah, it really took off because of COVID, right? Like everybody was stuck inside, and the only thing you had to do was play video games. And a lot of people decided, I'm going to get really into sim racing. So that's where that came from. Like we're still feeling the effects of that boom now. Companies are still, as a result of that boom, still growing and hiring as a result of that.
Yeah, aren't some of these races aren't some of the more famous NASCAR simulation races? Aren't some of them having payouts for winning?
So it sort of depends. So I can't log on tonight and run their virtual Daytona 500 and win money.
Yeah.
They do, however, have sort of official series that if you're good enough to qualify and enter, there are monetary payouts. And some companies, in fact, do their own league-based racing with monetary payouts. Like, for example, the GR Cup series has a virtual series on iRacing that has, I think you win like $200 if you win a race or something. Like it's not nothing.
Yep. That's pretty cool. I think I didn't know about that until recently when I started watching just a short on a guy who won a bunch of NASCAR cup races. It was pretty interesting.
Yeah, the iRacing takes NASCAR very seriously. It started as a NASCAR simulator, way back in the day. It started as a NASCAR thing and then branched into sports cars.
So there used to be a NASCAR game or simulator that was really popular. I forget which year. It was like NASCAR 98 or 99 or 2000 or something like that. And then everybody switched over from that to iRacing when it came out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Only somebody who lives in Durham would know that fact.
I thought it was really, I don't know where I watched this. If I find it during this episode tonight, I'll try to link it up. But it was all about like iRacing, NASCAR, and how competitive it was. Professional drivers, professional iRacing drivers, all mixed into like one really high caliber lobby. And yeah,
So, if for to like, kind of transition away from like the driving aspect of this, but a curious question I have is, do you see that getting as big as current esports are in the world, right, where you have like literal careers in esports now, and even like college scholarships based around them?
No, because you're not going to get as many eyeballs on an iRacing stream as you would on a League of Legends stream, for example. Like it doesn't have that global following. What would be more likely to happen is if somebody was really that good, they more than likely have a shot at an actual like IRL racing tryout, which would be the end goal for at least most people, right?
Which has happened,
Yes.
I believe.
Like speaking of NASCAR, like William Byron, current Cup car driver and one of the fastest cars in the field, started out on iRacing. Like that's
like no grassroots. Like,
well, so he had a rich dad, so he had opportunities, but he developed his skills and got noticed on iRacing.
Yeah,
interesting. And this is a current driver today. I don't have any NASCAR knowledge at all.
He's a young guy. He's driving on, depending on who you ask, the fastest team in the NASCAR Cup Series.
Yep. I think a lot of like it translating to esports or becoming big, like League of Legends events and stuff like that. I think the barrier to entry is also a little bit higher for building a proper sim rig, right? Like you can run League of Legends pretty easily on a laptop,
consumer grade laptop.
Yeah, it doesn't cost any extra money.
But a sim rig can be fairly extensive. It depends on how far you want to take it, right?
Mm-hmm. I mean,
so
there
to
are
run
quite a few really good people that are just run on like that cheap Logitech wheel that everybody has somewhere in their basement. Yeah. And then it goes up from there to spend as much money as you want.
Yeah.
But to get, I mean, the barrier of entry to me for iRacing to like actually make it usable doesn't have to be good, right? You don't need triples or anything like that, but to make it a thing worthwhile and to create a good iRating for yourself, like it's still as much as a used Miata.
A used NC, yeah. NAs and Bs are more now, but
what's your price point for a used Miata? 4,000, 5,000?
Between $3,000 and $5,000.
Okay. I don't think I would agree with that. I think iRacing you could do significantly cheaper, and then it's a fixed cost, right? So once you have spent the $3,000, that's it. You're done. You're not continuously spending $800 for a set of tires every 4 months or whatever.
And you can use it all the time.
Yeah.
You can't use your $3,000 Miata all the time.
There's no consumables. There's no maintenance costs. Like it's a fixed price. So
so I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, right? Because we're coming up on an era where like new graphics cards are coming out. The games are going to be redesigned around those cards. Like, do you expect that the minimum viable hardware required to things like iRacing and Assetto will change as the 50 series comes out?
No, because iRacing is such an old game that was built on old stuff. Like it still has that code from that original 2003 iRacing game, right? Like, yeah, really nice hardware helps, but I mean, my graphics card is from 2022, and I don't need to upgrade it. Like, it still works just fine.
So if you were to recommend somebody to like build a setup, where would you start and what would you say is the worthwhile bougie thing to spend money on?
There's two things in iRacing. One, from a computer hardware perspective, spend more money on your CPU than you think you have to. It is a very CPU heavy game, not GPU. On the sim chassis setup, your pedals are far more important than your wheel. So spend more money to get a really nice load cell pedal, and you can leave the Logitech wheel alone for several years and be just fine.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Because like your Logitech pedal, like the one that everybody has, the really cheap one is it's a potentiometer.
rubber washer.
Yeah,
right?
and it's potentiometer based, so it's just based on the position of the pedal, how much brake force is being applied versus a load cell, which, as it sounds, based its pressure off of how much force is applied to it, which it completely changes how you brake.
Do you think it has been a valuable? Can you directly equate to your success driving and or instructing to things that you learned in iRacing?
Yep, I learned how to trail brake in iRacing, and that carried over into real life.
That's it.
Yep,
just trail braking.
straight up. Well, no, but like the thing, that's a big thing, right? Like that's kind of everything in how to go fast, or one of the things that is really important in how to go fast. And I learned how to do it properly in iRacing, and then when I carried it over into real life, I was like, oh my god, I was so much faster.
So can we take a lap of you at some other point in the future in your personal car at Maine, like a lap that you like or you're proud of,
Yeah.
and then overlay it with your iRacing data?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I would be very.
You can do that in Race Studio. There's a option to import sim data.
Yeah. But
have you done
I
that
want to
before?
see your exact data.
Okay.
I think it would be very interesting because I'm curious how the actual traces line up.
So you'd have to get the sectors in the AIM to match up with the sectors in iRacing.
That's
but I'm
fine.
sure
That's easy.
somebody's done that before. There's only 3 in iRacing, so sectors.
Yeah, you can redesign them in Race Studio pretty easily.
Yep. And then you could very easily overlay them and see what's going on.
I think a few things on iRacing translate, right? I think trail braking is one of them. You don't really without at my level of setup, right? You don't really feel the car control stuff as much, right? Like you don't feel like slip angle, you don't feel losses of traction, whatever. That's always been a thing that was hard for me about driving a sim. But I think you do learn a lot of things that translate over. Like Andrew talked about trail braking. You don't learn anything about weight transfer, right? Or not really.
I mean, that's what trail braking is, right?
Yeah, in a sense, right? But you don't like learn the feel, I guess.
You learn how the car turns with weight on it versus not. And
I would personally say that I think the trail braking is one of the best examples you can carry between iRacing and real life. Maybe I would put it even higher than like learning track familiarization.
Oh, you think so?
Yes, your body does not feel the sensations, but the one thing I have found in my very limited iRacing experiences is that the trail braking functionality is more apt to real life than I would expect. Where most other things I would put in the not really close enough to real life for me personally to
Yeah.
take value from it at this point.
I did my first actual sim race the other night with live competitors in Andrew's club, and it was interesting. At first, I thought I was like, okay, I'm just going to go into this and I'm going to, just try not to cause any incidents and this and that. And then before you know it, as the laps came in more and more, I got more comfortable and I was, pushing for positions and, trying to make moves and dive bomb into corners. And it was so much fun. And I didn't realize like how aware you had to be. I mean, and I know this isn't going to sound right. You have to be so aware of car position on iRacing, and that was really, really hard on like a single monitor.
And that's just racecraft, right? Like,
Yeah.
You're learning, you're progressing from how do you set the fastest lap to how do you go as fast as possible and put your car ahead of other cars.
Yeah, it was so much fun because we were coming into Lime Rock, right, and it has that like, I guess turn 1A braking zone, and it's kind of like prolonged, and you can either dive bomb it and like brake late and then cut back in, or you can come from further out and try to like maintain momentum. And it was so cool, like you would come down into there 2-3 wide, and how the different approaches kind of came together.
How does that work? So you were driving at home or at the rental, right, on a single monitor, like a single 32?
Yeah, a single. No, not even a 32. It's, I don't know. Yay big.
27.
Yeah, 27.
As you zoom in, what's your field of view on that screen? Can you see out of the doors and mirrors?
No, you can get a little bit of your left-hand mirror, and then you have to bind like look left, look right, and look up, down to different buttons.
I never use those, by the way. I
Yeah,
never use those with buttons.
I looked left and right a couple times, but it looks so far left that you can't even really see out of the mirrors.
Can you change that angle? Like, can I only look 20 degrees?
You can change FOV. You can change.
No, I want to change how much I turn my head when I hit that button.
I haven't.
No. The other option is to use a VR headset, and then it's perfectly accurate to where your head is looking.
Yeah.
Interesting. I mean, I have lots and lots of thoughts of like where it could hold value. Patrick, did you finish, or did you punt Carlos off the track?
I placed in my first race. I started 15th and finished 11th.
Okay.
And then in the second race, I started 11th and made it up to 6th, and then incurred too many incidents and got black flagged.
What were the incidents? Cutting track?
Like off track and like 1x counts. I'm pretty sure that was most of them.
Yep. So by league rules, if you accumulate 13 incidents in 15 minutes, you get a drive-through. 17 gets you a DQ.
And I was so tired at that point because that was like I turned 50 laps in practice, which was a long time. I turned qualifying laps. I turned a really long race one, which felt like an eternity, but it's only like 15 minutes.
15 minutes.
And then by race 2, I was so tired. I was just like, I got the black, and I was like, I'm not completing this race. I'm done. I'm tired. My hands were like cooked.
This is an early caveat, but something I want to bring up later as we get closer to it. But like using the sim to train for actual wheel-to-wheel racing, given I've seen people be egregiously weathered or beat down after their first event.
Yeah.
Oh, like you could use it to get somebody's confidence back up, or
what? So their confidence in just like the fact that as soon as you start racing, like the mental bandwidth you spend dealing with traffic management is exhausting, and I think that's why Patrick was exhausted.
Yes.
Where
mentally
I think
and physically,
if somebody like me and Jack, where that like mental bandwidth of managing the car and managing the traffic and the people around is a lot more second nature because we've been wheel to wheel racing might be easier, and then vice versa. I think there's a really good benefit to it potentially for training for endurance driving, where you sit down and do 90 minutes at a time.
Yeah.
You at least train the brain. Obviously, it's not going to do the same thing to your body, but I mean, to Patrick's point, your hands were hurting after, you said 30 minutes? Well,
Yeah.
I guess plus the 50 laps.
Plus like a ton of laps. And like I learned that track really, really fast. I was turning kind of hot laps in the practice session. I had plenty of time to get like toes behind people, see various different lines. I had tons of I'm not going to say tons of incidents, but I had tons of moments of, sending a car off of the track completely perfectly safe, no financial harm to anything. I think it was a great tool to learn a lot of really valuable lessons. Yeah. I had a blast.
Racecraft is absolutely a skill that you could learn on iRacing and it would translate over to real life because it's the same principles, right? Like if there's a car there, that means you can't be there too.
Yeah.
How is that currently enforced, like in the 86 Cup League or in most races? Is it enforced how, say, SCCA rules are written? Does it follow a similar structure of that, or is it? That's one thing I actually am not aware of.
So there's a couple different ways you can look at this. iRacing has their own sort of incident/penalty system where, like, if car-to-car contact happens, they kind of do their best to evaluate who is. It's a no-fault system. So if cars make contact, both people get penalized because both people had a chance to make it not happen. Where league races get more interesting is you can add a human steward element to it. So in our 86 league races, we have 3 stewards who at the end of every race evaluate every incident that was brought to the stewards, and we determine who's at fault and why, and issue penalties for next week's race.
Who are those people currently? Are they actual racers or are they?
Yeah, so it's myself, Carlos, and Thomas Toomey.
Seems sus.
Seems very sus. It was really
good to be
cool.
at the top.
At the end of the race, they sat down and they just did it live.
So every incident is reviewed before everybody, and then after that is when the stewards go and make their judgments.
Where can we find this league? Are you guys still open to like the general public? And when do the races happen? And like, what does it look like week over week, year over year?
So we go all year round. There's no breaks. It's every Tuesday night. Sessions usually start between 6:30 and 7 for practice. Qualifying is always at 8:15. And then the races, there's always 2 of them, 2 15-minute races with the second race. Usually the front 10-ish cars get inverted.
And all in the 86 Cup car.
Yep.
I can post a link for the Discord if you want me to, Andrew.
Sure.
Okay. I'll put it up in the YouTube.
So, Jack, it looked like you had some ideas. I was going to start moving down the list, but
I'm just super tempted. I played on Andrew's pedal set a couple of weeks ago, whenever it was. And yes, if my fiance weren't wearing my race car right now, I would be highly tempted in upgrading my pedals, finally getting into iRacing. Forza does not cut it.
No, it doesn't. Especially, I'm a little biased here, but I think the league aspect of iRacing is the second best part of the simulator, and it's the best part of Tuesday night for me by far. Just hanging out with those guys, racing with those guys, like it's always fun.
Yeah, that's what's nice about like the Discord based communities, right? You have a community, you're there, it's a social event. It's very akin to being in the paddock, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep, that was one of the things we were shooting for.
Yep. It's pretty good. I enjoyed it. Everybody was nice. Nobody yelled at me nobody yelled at me too hard when I was a shitty driver. So
Well, there's the understanding that if it's your first time, like we all know iRacing is hard, and we all
Yep.
remember what it was like to be that way. So, if it's your first time, by law we're cutting you some slack.
yeah.
And
Most
probably an extra couple of car widths.
Yeah, for sure.
There was a few times it was, we're all on a live channel during practice, right? We're going into a corner side by side, and they're just like, yeah, I'm not doing this. Fair enough.
I wouldn't get next to me either.
Yeah.
I have a good video of Jack doing that in real life at comp school
What?
from the tower. Lots of people being like, nope, I'm not willing to put my car there.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's the right move.
Mhm.
So some of the things you talk about all the time, Andrew, and this is one I actually don't agree with, and I know a lot of people do, is like track familiarization.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
I personally don't agree with that, other than the track turns left or right at this general instance in time.
But that's still better than nothing.
I can look at a track map and see that, though. I can watch a video and see that.
No, I disagree with this one vehemently, Trey. Sorry, I think you're going to have a couple enemies on that one.
Well,
I just threw Forza under the bus.
Maybe Trey is just that smart that he can look at a track map and know.
And just know it.
Yeah, like
that's 150 feet from here to there. And
no. Even better, he saw a track map and knew that not only that the corner was going right, but that it was going right and downhill.
Yeah.
So he knew how to turn it perfectly right there every time.
If you've ever done
none of the elevation has tracked in a way that really has, I think, accurately represented the aggressive tracks. Like you look at anything for Road Atlanta, it is not the same in real life. It is way more ridiculous coming up under the bridge.
I agree with you. However, I think that, I have a recent example of this with Lime Rock. Like in iRacing, like going up the hill, the steep hill, is way scarier in real life than it is in the simulator, like starkly so. However, because I have done it 800 times, 8,000 times in the simulator or whatever, I know what steering input should be. I know what to expect when the car crests. Like the rear end's going to get loose, have the correction built in, no big deal. Yep. Yeah, like same with Road Atlanta. Like I know it looks scarier, and it is scarier than it was in the sim, but I still know where my hands should be.
Yeah, I know where I need to be at under that bridge to come out with a clean line.
Mm-hmm.
And I threw Forza under the bus. But several years ago, Trey, before you and I went to Road Atlanta, I did, 100 laps of Road Atlanta on Forza in my little shitty Logitech wheel. Yep. And it wasn't perfect. But going up over and under the bridge where it lightens up, you can feel it. And I did it to a point where I know a fast lap, I should be in fifth gear at this point. Things to that extent too. This straightaway is 2.5 breaths. It depends on where I started.
Yeah, you can accurately plot out. If you can drive the track in your mind perfectly, virtually, that tracks to real life almost perfectly, and you can map that to your IRL in the car experience. Be like, oh, I turned in too early here, and that's why I'm over here, or something like that.
I found it helped with visual markers as well. Even if they don't.
This is where it doesn't hold up to me. It does not hold up. The visual markers are not correct.
Your visual markers are malarkey anyways. I've done track walks with you, and they're silly. It's like,
did you see that piece of rubber that melted to the track in 2018? How did you not see it?
50 feet out of your line of sight.
Let's use a tree that doesn't exist anymore.
But there's a hole where the tree used to be.
I know where that tree should be visually.
I'm going to look at the emptiness. I'm going to literally look at a thing that's not there. That's not a marker.
Oh, it absolutely could be.
No, it's not.
I can't take track.
If that tree isn't there. I don't know, the way that I always did it was not necessarily that tree or the 2 marker, or I do use a lot of asphalt markings on real tracks, but the space in relation to everything else. Again, if you're using Road Atlanta as an example, if you're in 5th gear, as you start turning in, you fucked up. And just knowing where the car is when that curbing is about to start, even if it's off by 6 feet in real life, you at least have that general idea of you're either going too fast, too slow. Now's the time to turn in, lighten up the hands, whatever the case may be. Yeah, the more markers you have, the better you're going to be.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
And it's hard to find the tree in iRacing or that spotch of pavement in Forza. Like, those don't exist. You have to use markers that aren't physically there, I guess.
I'm not every marker I personally know is because it was predicated by somebody telling me, give me something to look at or a point to turn in at or to do an action item at. They're not things I personally use because that's not how I drive or how I look at things. So they've all been like learned and established, like, oh, if I say this thing at this point in time on the straight, it normally affects this change on the person driving.
So like almost like an AI, right? Like you're not very good at human interaction. You need something to like relate. So you use other inputs that people have told you, and you're like, oh, people like this. I can say this, then like it.
So
No,
I think that's the
these
difference,
are-
Patrick. I'm going to speak for you right now. The inputs aren't coming from other people. The opinions of people wanting inputs are coming
Oh.
from other people. The
So he's
inputs are
just
coming
like-
from Trey, and that's where the
And he just
problem
looks and
starts.
sees something, and it's like, that's a bird.
That's
Use the bird as the breaking point.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
He's like,
That's a marker.
panic.
I mean,
Don't know what to say.
to be there's a lot of things I will tell a person to do, and it's like about 150 feet earlier than I would tell Jack to do the same thing if he was driving, because Jack's going to do the thing when I tell him to do the thing, so the delay is a lot shorter. Whereas, random person, I've got to judge their tape delay in what I say versus the action that they perform on the vehicle.
So, do you think that iRacing could be used in conjunction with coaching? Like, should you even go as far as I've heard of this done before, using it at events of the track that you're at during paddock time?
I have a few thoughts from instructor training, but for coaching, I would be curious more so what Andrew would have to say or Jack has to say on that in regards to either being personally coached or coaching somebody else.
So I think he can help you teach theory, much more so than direct translation. So this is where the faults of it being a video game reared their ugly head. So, for example, the GR Cup car in iRacing does not drive how the real life Cup car drives, and you can see it in videos where the GR Cup car in iRacing has 2 times more I'm exaggerating, but it's got way more lateral grip than the IRL car does, and it's way slower on the straightaway. So they end up in roughly the same lap time, but you can tell in the side by sides, they make it very differently. Like my car, my not race car, is much faster than the iRacing GR Cup car is on the straightaways. And that's the fault of the simulator not actually simulating the car. So, if you're trying to teach somebody how to drive the GR Cup car in iRacing and then they get in the actual car, those things might not line up 100%. And then the other issue is because your inputs to the simulator come from pieces of equipment that might not accurately map to real life, you can learn how to drive the simulator like a video game, right? Where you kind of like think about how like a speedrunner on a Mario run. They kind of hack the game to make it work the way they want it to, rather than using the game the way it was intended to be designed.
Mhm.
So there's ways to do that in every video game, including iRacing, and it makes you faster in iRacing, but that does not translate to real life. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you're playing with the terms of physics that are defined for you. Right.
Mhm.
Whereas in real life, though iRacing is, does try to simulate a sliding scale of like grip and input and things like that. In real life, the variation between lap to lap, corner to corner, it can potentially be much more aggressive.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I will say though that I learned how to. I've been called a robot before, and how I drive in real life. Like I can do the same lap again and again and again and again and again, and I learned how to do that here.
Can we put that to a test?
Sure. I bet I'm right too.
Yeah, but can you call out a lap time at a track?
Ooh.
And then recreate it within 0.2 for 3
I
laps.
bet I could set a lap time, feel what I and the car am capable of in the moment, and drive that lap within 0.3, 4 times in a row.
3/10, so you upped it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'd be curious. So that's the one thing I think I could do better.
Oh, okay. I didn't say I was the best at it. I'm sure you could do it better.
But it's hard. It's difficult to like understand what a time feels like and how to recreate it and what you did well, and like just a general like competitive banking time. If that all makes sense. An endurance lap time.
Yeah, I would not. This would not be a all-out 10/10 push, same lap time 4 times in a row. I'm not that good, but I could do an 8/10 lap 4 times in a row within 0.3.
Patrick could not.
No, not on iRacing.
No, just in general.
I'm pretty good in real life of turning a consistent lap.
When was the last time you drove more than 4 laps?
I regularly
drive
more than 4 laps. I don't know. I'm really in real life. I am very bad at making like big changes. I do very small, minuscule changes, but I do the exact same thing every single lap.
Your lap times say otherwise.
I don't know what lap times goes up
looking
on either side of the knife edge.
I'm just saying. Lap time says otherwise.
The only lap times you're ever seeing of mine are TT times, when you go out, you scrub in a tire, and then you do like push laps. Of course, there's going to be tons of variation.
I'm just saying. That's my 2 cents. So I have another question. You have done multiple, Andrew, have done multiple endurance races in iRacing.
Mm-hmm.
It's always shameful to see you guys get knocked out in the like fucking 3rd hour. Seems to happen all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to deal with that and just like either punt and restart in another bracket or move forward. But I do think this is one of the most realistic crossovers for iRacing versus real life is endurance race training.
Yeah.
Like the one thing you don't really get is managing your body in dealing with physical G-forces, but you are potentially sitting in a sim rig next to a hot ass PC and a bunch of monitors and having to be like brain switched on for, between 90 minutes and
where is it? There it is.
4 hours.
That's a fan. There's another one right there.
But that's it. I mean, I get that out of my window too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I know even in short time sitting in your rig, it gets hot. Like you're not in a race suit, you're not in a helmet. I personally feel like that could be a really good avenue to learning just how to sit down and do a thing for like 90 minutes to 3 hours.
Sure.
Do you think that's a viable crossover and something that maybe people potentially wanting to go like amateur endurance racing should look into?
Absolutely. I mentioned that the league races were the second best thing about the iRacing. The best thing is the special events where they replicate IRL big time endurance races. So, like earlier this year, me and a couple of friends attempted an actual replica of the 24 Hours of Daytona. Like that's cool as fuck in my opinion. We didn't succeed because we got punted in hour 3 of 24 and decided I don't feel like coasting around 6 laps behind for the rest of these 21 hours.
Yeah.
So we just decided to quit and go about our day. But yeah, like at the 24 Hours of Daytona in the car we were driving, you're in the seat for 2 hours at a time. So it's fantastic mental practice for endurance stints like that.
Is there anything you would change about it? Would you do things differently? I know the one thing that seems to stand out to me is, yeah, something goes wrong and you guys just bail in hour 3. Like we're not gonna try.
Yeah.
And
well, so what happens is that iRacing doesn't have safety cars, so the race doesn't stop ever. There's no chance for you to get those laps back except on raw pace. And
I did not know that.
Yeah, so barring you getting lucky and literally everybody ahead of you also having incidents like that, which has happened before, but you're gambling. And it just at this point, because I've already won the race 2 years ago, so I didn't feel super I didn't feel super motivated to keep going for not a good result.
I don't know. Is there a way to build like Daytona 24 endurance race that does have a safety car?
Sure, iRacing will let you do that. There are leagues that attempt this for the 24 Hours of Le Mans, but it's not easy. And the native tools within iRacing, remember, it started out as a NASCAR simulator, so the safety car rules are built around NASCAR style cautions, and they have not gotten to adopting road course safety cars. And there's some good reasons not to have them, because like in the actual 24 Hours of Daytona, if you watch, like a full safety car procedure is easily 20 minutes of just coasting. And I'm not sure if you want that in what is ultimately a video game, right?
I don't know. I could be convinced either way, but it's also like could also be convinced that like, oh hey, we as a team that's going to run, let's say Champ VIR 24 hour.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to go run VIR for 24 hours in some iRacing race, and we're going to deal with all the shit we have to deal with.
Yeah, but you paid money to be there in that Champ car race.
Yeah.
I didn't pay any money to be in the 24 Hours race, and I didn't give up anything. I got my day back, actually.
At the end of the day, isn't that really the thing, though, right? Like the stakes are just different. The stakes are just different. That's all most of it boils down to, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's a little different for like the 24 Hours of Le Mans, which is not an official race on iRacing. For long story, they lost the rights to R Factor and those guys. There's a big drama backstory I could go into. Anyway, a league took it upon themselves to recreate that, and still, this is an event that attracts thousands of people who all pay $50 for the privilege of entering this race, and in exchange, you get some volunteers to run safety car procedures and actual like in-race protest forum. So like if somebody did you wrong, you can actually have somebody get black flagged for it. So
wow.
there are ways to do things better.
Damn it! I want to end up buying pedals soon. Damn it, Andrew.
It's $250 on Amazon. Get you some Thrustmaster TLCMs. Fantastic
say.
pedals for the price.
Yeah.
Race cars in my garage.
Yeah, I think that's all I kind of really wanted to discuss on the topic. Is there anything else you want to touch on, Andrew?
Were there any chats that needed?
We had a couple of people.
YouTubes.
I don't see a whole lot.
No, not really.
No, Steve, iRacing does not have. They do have full course cautions, but it's a funky thing on road courses that is not perfectly implemented. It works great on ovals, but not on road courses. You can trigger a full course caution, but then the restart procedure is not as clear.
Okay. Jack, do you have anything?
Immediately at hand?
Oh, I see.
I do not. No, I was just looking to see if there's anything discussing, and that 40-minute mark hits, and yeah, my connection.
Wow. Yeah.
That good.
Cool.
Sorry, guys.
I do have. We touched on this a little bit, Patrick. We talked a little bit about the awareness that you have to have. What are some of the things you used in the sim to gain that awareness? Like, you have a very fixed field of view. How did you still manage to be aware of cars around you?
Yeah, that was hard. The biggest thing that you have right in the game is you can't really see your mirrors, but you have that little spotter dude that's like, you got a car left, or he's like still left, and that's probably the biggest thing that you can use, right? At least as far as I know so far. I didn't find ways to like easily look out of my mirrors on single monitor setup, which I'm bringing my 2 other monitors with me when I come back next week or whenever I come back. So then I'll be like, fully in. I'm pretty sure I'm going to beat you then.
That's the spirit.
Man, this guy talks so much shit. It's unreal.
I guess the only real tool that you had to use or to rely on was your spotter.
So there's your spotter, and the other thing that you develop over time is you become mentally aware of where the cars are, and you build a picture of virtually where the car is. Like, if I can't see him over here, he must be at my door.
Yeah.
And so therefore you drive accordingly.
Just like driving,
which I think is that yeah, exactly. Like that skill translates directly into real life.
Yeah, you know where your blind spot is, and if you can't see somebody here, then they must be in your blind spot, right? Yeah, I don't know. It was fun, man. I had a blast. I'm really looking forward to next week. Yeah, it was really good.
So Dan had a couple good comments and statements. HPDE students could benefit from iRacing to get comfortable driving offline and being passed. What are your thoughts on that? And I definitely have some relating to Patrick's experience.
HPDE isn't racing. Beyond that, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree that it could help. We could for sure. We could, like, we did this a little bit. You and I, Patrick, where we did side-by-side drills. I think that's actually a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, you're taking all the risk out of it, right? And you're still developing that skill or comfort level, or I don't know. I think it's a really. I honestly don't know why it doesn't happen more at events.
What?
I don't know why we don't
Which
use
part?
it as a tool to learn it.
I have an
Especially
answer for
tracks
that.
that
It's because sim rigs are heavy and a pain in the butt to move.
And also still relatively expensive, and then we need
It's a cheap
power.
Miata.
Yeah, that's all it is. It's a cheap Miata. Yeah, Trey, you go ahead and you buy us a cheap Miata. Cheap Miata.
harder.
I mean, Patrick's looking for investment opportunities. If you want to bring one, and then also the power generation needed, and also cooling. I would love to. I really would actually love to set up like an after hours, like multiple rigs set up where we could run and drive and have a good time.
Yeah, I would love to do this. Build a hangout trailer, a social events trailer. No, it solves a lot of issues, right? Number one, you're green. It's your first time at the track, a common area where you know that it's socially accepted that people are supposed to gather, right? Not some random trailer or some guy's RV where people are just hanging out. Number two, awesome sim racing. And number three, it's cool. I don't know.
$10,000. That's what it sounds like.
Plus trailer, plus air conditioning, plus.
Man, you could build a little sim rig trailer for like 10. Trailer and rig.
$10,000.
Simple.
10's go. You could build one
Yeah,
rig.
one sim rig.
It doesn't have to be as big as this one is. You could build like Patrick's rig for
One
less.
rig. Yeah.
No, you do a 32 curved, maybe, but
We could also outsource. Currently, there are flexible rental options available,
There
choosing
are a
rental
lot.
durations of 3 hours, 5 hours, or even 7 hours.
Yeah, like that's a thing.
7 hours for $5,000.
No, it's $1,800 for. Sorry, 7 hours is 1,800. 5 hours is 1,500.
That sounds not unreasonable.
Do they provide their own power?
Yeah, it looks like it.
Cool.
I mean, I assume they're only going to go to a location that has like shore power available.
Oh.
Yeah, or a generator.
No, yeah, powered by a generator inverter. Look at that.
Hmm.
Only within 250 miles of somewhere in Illinois.
Oh, I think we're out.
Nope, probably not going to work.
I mean, it's something to consider. It's such a small market. Like it really
is. It's a pretty niche market, right?
So we have another question. Okay, well, Dan, I need a PC before you donated to the region. 772 is asking about what do you think about the tire model? I don't have enough iRacing experience to deal with the tire model other than
is there even
what my current experience is it's bullshit and they're worse than Hoosiers on a 32-degree day.
So this is
it's not even an option, right?
This is a long, complicated question.
Dry and wet? Is that it?
No, it's car dependent.
Oh,
that's bullshit.
A little bit. So like, it's car class dependent. Like we talked about, the GR Cup car has way more lateral grip than it's supposed to, and most of that is due to its tires. So you can, back when the car first came out, you could literally flip it over because it had so much mechanical lateral grip that it just yeeted itself over on some corners. Like the current GTP cars at iRacing, like the top, like the Cadillac GTP car that everybody really likes to hear the noise of when it like fires up in the pits, like those classic cars, they are way faster than their real life counterparts, in large part due to the faulty tire model that has way too much grip. So the tire model is a subject of contention in iRacing, and this is where that like video game aspect of it comes into play. What's up, Murphy?
Oh. You all hear me all right?
Yes,
yeah,
sir.
we can hear you.
So I have a big question
You
for
mean
you.
you just had to walk out of the shop?
I have a big question for you as coming from traditionally an iRacer and transition to road racing, what do you find were the largest differences, and what was your biggest struggle as you made that transition? And from moving to road racing and continuing to iRace, what did it help benefit you in iRacing?
So one of the biggest changes, obviously going from sim to real life, is the pretty obvious one of this is no longer a video game. This is real life. Like this is in a sim, if you crash, you can hit the reset button, and most importantly, it doesn't cost you anything. In real life, if you crash, there is no reset button. You're now stuck with whatever happens, whether that be in one of my cases where I had a bent quarter panel and it was as easy as just quite literally a 5-second job of pulling it back in place, or they'll sometimes total a car.
Yeah, the gravity
just
of the
having to go.
situation. Yeah.
Yes, that to me that was the biggest change, and that is definitely a mental, like that is the big. There's two big changes. That is the biggest mental change. Is just telling myself like there's now serious implications to this. The physical one is being able to feel everything. With sim racing, all your feeling comes from the wheel, and depending on what pedal set you have, you can get a little bit of feeling in the pedals. Usually, under braking, you'll kind of feel your brake vibrate a little bit, depending on if you're locking up or if you're hitting ABS. Versus real life, you have lateral G forces. You have like G force, not even just lateral, but just all around. You can feel the whole car moving all around you, and it's telling you what it wants. And you can feel it in every little aspect rather than just the steering wheel. The biggest difference with that is just figuring out, okay, with what the wheel told me in iRacing, what is the car telling me in real life, and how does it differ? And using all of that data that I acquired in quite literally just a very fast time frame, because of how fast racing is, you have to learn on the fly. I feel I was able to pick it up pretty quickly and be like, okay, if I'm putting too much wheel input in, I'm understeering through this corner. Every little aspect I was able to learn from it.
Yeah.
What do you feel is the biggest skill that you were able to take from actually like road racing back to iRacing that was a huge benefit?
I would say a big thing was just like brake modulation and just the idea of trail braking in sim, especially before I started real life racing. Like if you would look at any of my brake traces, it would look like a mountain view of just constant up and downs versus how it should look, which is a quick spike and then a gradual to steady-ish drop off, depending on what kind of corner you're hitting. I feel that has greatly improved in sim from doing it in real life, because it's like, oh, like if I mash the brake pedal in real life and kind of have what would look like a mountain-esque brake trace, then the car is going to be all unsettled and it's going to just not drive properly, not take the corner properly, versus in sim, like, oh, this is actually modeled pretty well. If I do the same thing in real life, how I'm doing it in sim, well, then in sim, I'm going to be a lot faster.
Do you wish you would have learned certain things actually in the car versus at the sim? Like, do you wish you would have started in the car learning trail braking versus learning it on the sim?
I
Do you feel
do.
like it's extremely detrimental?
I don't want to say extremely detrimental, but I mean, there's definitely an advantage to learning it in the real car versus sim, because obviously you're going from real car to real car versus from sim to real car. And while the sim isn't perfect by any means, it's definitely accurate, and it definitely, like, it teaches you, if nothing else, the fundamentals of it, of how to do it. But the biggest reason why I did sim was, I mean, what a lot of racers face is just like lack of funds. Like I didn't have the money nor really the resources at the time to do that. Like all I had was a 2006 Toyota Camry and a sim rig. So it's like, well, I can't exactly learn brake trace and brake migration on an '06 Camry, but I can at least understand it in a sim and then put that back in real life.
Yeah, for sure.
If you were to change anything about going to comp school when you did, what would that be, if anything?
As far as just like just at the time, what would I have done differently?
Yeah.
I think I would have came into it in slightly different mindset. When I did school, I kind of had like, I don't want to say I came into it like being all egotistical, even though as a racer, you kind of have to have that mentality at least a little bit. But I know from the get-go, I did try and like go quick and kind of prove what I was able to do. And then also got humbled very quickly of like, okay, this is not the sim. This is real life. And you need to snap out of this mentality before something bad happens. And it took me from Saturday to Sunday to truly learn that. And I mean, my driving from Saturday was worse than my driving on Sunday, because Sunday I was a lot more consistent. I was a lot more comfortable in the car. I came into it with a fresh mindset of like, all right, just don't worry about the lap times. Don't worry about like trying to impress people. Just go out and drive.
Yeah, go A to B. Was that also your first time driving a real, like, in real life manual transmission car?
So I had learned how to drive stick like 2 to 3 weeks prior, and I did it in about 3 different cars. I first did it in a Subaru Forester around my high school's parking lot.
Nice.
I then did it in a Miata around the Summit Point garages, and then I
Nice.
last did it in a Lexus SC300, like on an actual road. And that I think is what taught me the most, because I was able to actually get out of second gear.
That's amazing. And then you drove
so
comp
cool.
school in a
Yeah.
EM1.
Yeah.
That is so cool, dude.
Thank you. I mean, it was, I love telling like my friends and family and stuff like this. It is about the most trial by fire way that you could do it. But in my opinion, there's no better way to learn it. Like you will learn so much so quickly that way. And it's the biggest reason is because you have to learn it. Because if not, then you won't make it out. But if you do learn it, if you do understand it, then you will.
Is there anything you would change about that whole situation and the coming to a comp license?
I think if I could, I think I would have preferred to at least have some sort of track day, just to not have comp school be the first ever time I was on the track.
Yeah.
But I mean, again, the biggest reason to that was just financially. And I know everybody's financial status is different. I don't want to like just say, oh, you should do this, like,
No, yeah.
just because I mean, I didn't come from money when I started racing. I still don't really though. And I'm very fortunate with what I've been able to do with the resources and people that I've been able to do it with. So in my personal case, like if I would have done a track day, realistically, I probably would have done school the following year and not that year. But I mean, I got placed in the situation that I was in. I had a car lined up ready to go for me, and I kind of ran out of time to do anything else. So it's like, all right, let's do it.
Right, here we are. And then I have one final question, but
Okay.
anything comp school, iRacing, Andrew, Patrick, Jack, do you guys want to ask Murph before he gets back to fixing Formula SAE cars?
No, I just think that's the coolest. I don't know. That's really cool, and you should be very proud of doing that, Murph. That's pretty awesome.
No, nothing else. Well, Murph, I expect to see you at Dominion this year. You can make all the excuses you want, but if we are able to host a bracket race, you have to be there. There's it's a requirement. But
And then,
two, how do you feel about the Nissan, and was that the right choice for your path forward in this ridiculous addiction we all share?
so while the Nissan is specifically the Z31, which if any of you guys don't know, and I won't be surprised if you don't even know what that car is, as its nickname is the Forgotten Z. While I don't think it is the most ideal choice to go with, I'm very fortunate in that it was my choice because it taught me a lot. Like a lot of people, when they do comp school or like even just racing in general, they'll like majority of people, like it or not, will learn on a Miata, and at some time or another they will learn / drive and / race on a Miata. I learned on quite possibly the polar opposite of that car. That car was 3,000 pounds. It barely, at best, made 150 horsepower, and I like it. It was a blast to drive, but it was also like it drove exactly how you guys think it would. But in
Did the factory tax still work?
I mean, it probably would have. That car was like, if you would have seen it, it looked like a car that came off the production line and then had some race stuff thrown on, like a roll cage and a couple other small stuff added to it.
It was pretty tidy.
I'll say, and you can ask Trey too, it was the quietest car in the field and it was not even close. Like I remember at one point I was racing an old RX-3 and like,
Oh God,
that's just all I heard. Like if he was within like
7 corners,
yeah, like that's just all I heard. And like on race starts especially, it was like, oh, I can't. Like I'm going straight off of what my tax says. Like my car, there's zero audio coming from it.
Yeah.
But to answer the question, am I glad that I learned on that? Absolutely, because I mean, while it does teach me different stuff than what a Miata would teach me, it still teaches me the fundamentals of how to race, how to drive, how to handle a car that's different, how to handle a car that's heavy. I mean, that
old.
Yes,
to be
and
completely honest,
and how to work on a car with, like, if you have a Miata, as much credit as I will give people like RP or like Windsor and stuff like that, or even just like really half the freaking paddock. If you have a problem with your Miata, you can get it fixed in about 2 minutes, and half the grid can help you out with it. With a car like the Z, I was forced to learn for myself. I couldn't rely on other people to be like, oh, I'm having this problem. Like what would you guys do to fix it? Like I had to learn for myself. Oh, if I'm having this problem, like what do I do? And I mean, the first ever race weekend I had my alternator wasn't right. I would come off the track and my car would be screeching about as loud as it can be. Which, if you guys have ever, spoiler, if you guys have ever had bad belts, like bad alternator belts, or it was too loose, you know exactly what noise I'm talking about. And
we've all been there.
Yeah, and I had to learn on the fly. Like, yes, I had people come and help me, and like we eventually figured it out. But it was like I couldn't take it to Brett. I couldn't take it to any of like the big Miata guys. Like I was like, okay, this is strictly, at least in my case right now, a Nissan problem. Like what would the Nissan solution be?
I'm sure Jack has a quirky response for that.
Well, yeah, if I walked through the paddock and I saw somebody working on a Z31 and said, wow, holy shit, you took one of these out to the track? Good luck.
Yeah, I mean, and that's like with all the people that came by me and was like talking to me and stuff, that's essentially how the conversation ended. They're like, man, we love to see this car out here, but like, have fun with it.
I've got a hammer and some screwdrivers. Just
yeah, pretty much. I was like, you know what? I may not be the brightest guy out here, but it's like I got what I hope is enough, which of course as a racer is never enough. But it's like I got what I got. We're gonna make do with it.
for me, that's part of the fun, right? Like we're just gonna figure it out.
Yep.
And I appreciate you coming on, Murph. It means a lot to all of us. Very excited to see you this year. Come back. Do you have big plans for the season?
It'll be a new car. I can tell you that right now. It'll be a new car. It'll still be a Nissan, but it won't be the 300 anymore.
If it starts with a 2,
it does start with a 2.
Okay.
Yeah. Now you just have to guess which kind it is.
I have lots of ideas. I mean, as a fellow Nissan owner, I'm not sure how to feel.
Is it an S chassis?
You want me to give you the year?
Yeah, I'll go
pretty
with
much give it away, but
89. No, I'll go 89. Yeah, it's got to be an S chassis.
Yeah.
I was going to say, it can't be a Sentra.
No. I will be, if you guys remember, I will be, assuming that everything goes well and everything can get finalized, I will be coming back with Andrew Johnson's old S13.
With a KA or
yes.
SR20?
KA.
It'll run forever.
Well, until he puts a turbo on it.
KAT.
It'll run for half a day.
For a little bit. It'll make good power when it does, though.
Oh, yeah. I'm excited for it. It's definitely going to be something different. First off, it's going to be about 400 pounds lighter, which I'm already excited about.
It's going to be... You're in a 300Z right now?
Yes.
Oh, man. Yeah, it's going to be way lighter and just like completely... It's going to be relearning how to drive again. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
but
aren't the old 300Zs solid rear axle?
Yeah, they're solid, right?
Yeah, they are.
So
and
going
then
from solid to IRS.
Yeah. And then like the S13 is so flimsy too.
Yeah. It's not exactly beefy. Like the 300. I will say, like,
the chassis is very limp.
Yeah. Well, the big reason behind that was like with the 300, like it was all iron, like it was iron everything, which is why it was so heavy.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like if I got in a wreck, the like body work may have been damaged, but like the actual internals were probably fine.
If you wreck the S13.
Oh, I'm going to do everything in my power not to.
Yeah. Man, that's going to be cool.
Yeah, I'm very excited for it.
Also, if you need body panels, parts, or pieces, Patrick knows the guy.
I know a guy who has a yard full of them.
Well, in all seriousness, if you can get me his contact, just to because I'd rather have extra stuff than not.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that'd be greatly appreciated.
Yes, sir. He's part of the WDCR. I'll share his contact.
What's the guy's name?
Austin
Vola.
Okay.
If you came to DE days, you would have met him. You guys would have been best friends. Just from, not even standing near a car. It would have. It would have. Nissan people find each other.
Yep. Yeah. Oh my God. There's a dude on the SAE team. He has about the most clapped out Altima that you'll ever see, and it's like he's one of the funniest guys on the team. Like he's just such a blast to hang out with, but like the car matches him perfectly, which is what makes it hilarious about it.
Yeah, you have to cut people off in traffic. It's got to be a CVT and break all of the speed limits, and then have Maryland plates.
But hey, to be fair, in his credit, it's North Carolina plates.
So it's 1 out of 3.
Yeah, I would say because Charlotte drivers are not any better.
Very fair. Well, Murph, I appreciate your time. Keep us. I would love to chat with you again about kind of the Formula team.
Yeah.
Formula SAE seems to be. It's not as prevalent as it should be in SCCA or any road racing or autocross things as it used to be. So I'd love to see what we can talk about and get involved with that.
Yeah, I would love to I'd love to be a part of that.
I don't know who had the echo. It might have been me. But
No, I stepped inside, so let me step back outside. There was a bunch of cars coming around, and I didn't want the background noise of about 10,000 cars to drown out whatever I was saying.
well,
But to go back to the SAE topic, yes, I would love to be a part of that and help shine some more light on just SAE as a whole, like especially people looking to get into it, and with what you said too, how the SCCA can help grow it.
yeah, SCCA in other regions and autocross, like even Mercedes Club, all the things we have, the community has to offer.
Yep.
I feel like the fact that we've never seen a Formula SAE car at a DE or a time trial is a misstep.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, because I think, like, especially with us, like, we can get a lot of good data out of it, but there's also as somebody who's on the SAE side, I think I can see a little bit of both sides of it, but I'd be happy to share more light on that when the episode comes around.
Sounds great. I'll reach out, sir. I appreciate your time.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me.
Heck yeah.
Talk to you soon.
All right. See ya.
See ya.
Good talk, guys.
So,
Yeah.
Patrick, sum things up.
What?
Sum it up. Close us out.
Oh, iRacing is cool. You should do it. Come hang out with us in Andrew's iRacing community, A6 Club. Turn some laps, become a better driver, and yeah, I think it's a valuable tool.
Then come out and do some D.
Yeah,
Of
take
course.
those skills you learned virtually and then
ETT
come
and some
apply
bracket
them.
racing with us.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
What Jack said. Was going to say.
Learn to drive a car, and then come do time attack.
I'm here for it. I appreciate your guys' time. As always, we're just going to be a bunch of people having fun. So
Yep.
we'll keep moving forward. Have fun in Savannah, Patrick.
Oh well.
See you in a couple weeks at the opener.
Dude, I honestly don't even know. I don't know where I'm going to be tomorrow or the day after that. I just show up and smile whenever Inca tells me to. So I'm not even sure when I'll be back to DC. So
Well, if you need to cancel, you should do that sooner rather than later.
I don't think I'm going to cancel. I have it blocked out on my personal calendar. So
Okay. If I need to tow your car, I'll do it. We'll figure something out.
I'm tired, boss. I'm tired.
I'm not your boss. That's Jack, if anything, or Andrew. It's not me. I'm not my own boss. I'm my worst boss. It is what it is. But thank you all. Much appreciated. And everybody else, Steve, thank you for your stellar leadership. We will talk to you guys next week.
Looking forward
There you
to
go.
it. Thanks for hanging out, guys.
See y'all.